In a recent Saturday Night Live sketch titled Washington's Dream 2, George Washington, played by Nate Bargatze, outlines his dream for America to a group of soldiers. "We fight to control our own destiny, to create our own nation," he says, "and to do our own thing with the English language. I dream that one day our great nation will have a word for the number 12, we shall call it a dozen." So why is 12 of something called a dozen? Unfortunately, the answer isn't that exciting. There isn't any Daniel Dozen who inspired the term due to his obsession with the number 12, and the word isn't related to doze, so it wasn't inspired by 12 sleepyheads. Rather, dozen is simply a borrowing from French with Latin roots. The French douzaine is derived from the Latin duodecim, meaning 12. Dozen has appeared in English since at least the 1300s. Before the spelling settled on dozen in the 1500s and 1600s, the term appeared as dosaine, docine, dozaine, docin, docin, dawson, and other spellings. The term also could refer to an indefinite number of things, as in a 1734 use by Alexander Pope, "Dangers on dangers, obstacles by dozens." That sense is equivalent to lots of obstacles. Meanwhile, dozenth has been a synonym for 12th since the early 1700s. There are many dozen-related expressions, most famously baker's dozen for 13 of something. The Oxford English Dictionary explains the phrase like so, apparently so called after the former practice among bakers of including a 13th loaf when selling a dozen to a retailer, the extra loaf representing the retailer's profit. Interestingly, that expression has not always meant 13, as seen in an example from Notes and Queries in 1855. The baker's dozen is not a phrase, but a fact of daily occurrence in the trade for the number 14, or more commonly 13. Other expressions include a printer's dozen and a long dozen, which also mean 13. The phrase to talk 19 to the dozen means to talk rapidly or excessively. There's also rump steak and a dozen, which is explained in a Westminster Gazette example from 1893, the steak being a rump steak and a dozen. It was explained that it was a dinner and as much as you like to drink. An archaic meaning of dozen referred to a town council. That sense evolved due to such councils tending to have 12 members. So you could say the local dozen had a dozen members. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for more fascinating facts.